So fellas, after that mess of a main event between Reiner De Ridder and Brendan Allen and that really weird card that we had in Canada, there are some fights to make. So we're going to be going through fights to make after UFC Vancouver. Fights that I think make sense. Every win from the prelim, every winner or loser on the main card to fights that I think make the most sense and I think will be the funnest. And we'll start off with the first prelim winner. Melissa Crawdon, one of the few women MMA fighters we've got coming up that's actually entertaining to watch. I think she's got a 100% finishing rate of all the wins, so I think we need to put her in a fun fight. We need to keep around these women that are going to be in funny scraps, so I do Melissa Crawdon versus Cachoeira as well. Cachoeira, she's past her prime, definitely past her prime, but she's a very dangerous fighter herself. If you look at both of their finishing rates, I think it'd be a banger. If you look at both of their finishing rates, Cachoeira's got a shit ton of knockouts. Melissa Crawdon, every single one of her wins is by way of finish. Both of them are dog fighters. Both of them actually hit pretty hard as well for women MMA fighters. So I think if you put them against each other, it makes sense. Cachoeira's coming off a loss. Crawdon's coming off a win in her debut. You put them against each other, it's going to be a banger. So Crawdon, Cachoeira, put them against each other. And I think it's one of the few fights in the women MMA that I can look at and say that it's not going to be a boring fight. And I think it would be a banger. And it's honestly one of the few women MMA fights that I think the betting odds would be a higher chance of them not going the distance than going the distance. So Crawdon, Cachoeira, I'd get that done. Fun fight, probably doesn't go the distance. Makes sense. That's the fight I would do. And then 4. Yusri Belgarui upsets and destroys Azamat Bekaev. And when I say destroys, I mean he was knocking his head all over the canvas. Obviously now part of Poaton's camp, fought Poaton before. I don't want to say he's a prospect because like I said, he's quite up there in age. He's only just beat Azamat Bekaev, but he's definitely one of the better strikers coming up in the middleweight division. I do Yusri Belgarui. This might be quite a big step up, but I do him against Abbas Magomedov. I think this makes sense. After what he just did against Azamat Bekaev and how good his striking is, I think him and Abbas Magomedov would be a banger of fight. Magomedov's a weird fighter. He's very good in the first round. And he's a really good striker as well. Really good striker early on. He's got grappling. But we kind of said the same thing about Azamat Bekaev there. Bekaev's going to maul Belgarui. And that just wasn't the case. I think this is a good step up for Yusri Belgarui. Facing a guy who was just in the top 15. It's a step up in competition. Better striker than Bekaev. Better grappling than Bekaev. Still a winnable fight for Belgarui as well. Because I think it would be a stand-up fight. So I think if Belgarui can go out there and absolutely, not flatland, but, destroy or even look good against Abbas Magomedov, that's going to be massive. Because after that, it's probably going to have to be someone in the top 15 next for Yusri. So I'd put him against Abbas. Abbas obviously just got submitted by Joe Pyfer. Abbas versus Yusri. 2 tall, rangy strikers. Step up for Yusri, step down for Abbas Magomedov. Perfect kind of fight to test where Yusri is because we don't need to give him the slow path. Like I said, he's up there in age. He's just had an impressive win in the UFC against Bekaev, who was 2-0 and a bit of a prospect at middleweight. So Yusri, Magomedov, get that done. I think it'd be a banger of fight. Again, probably doesn't go the distance, and if it does go the distance, I expect it to be a war. Probably going to be some sort of a late finish by Yusri, but Yusri Belgarui, Abbas Magomedov, get it done, fun fight. And then we have Stephanie Luciano. I'd probably do Stephanie Luciano versus Jasmine Uregi. I mean, there's not really too much thought behind this. Stephanie's just got another win. Yasmin Uregi, I think she's coming off a loss as well, and she hasn't fought in a long time. It just makes sense from a perspective of rankings. You've got to give Stephanie Luciano someone in the top 15 now. Yasmin's in the top 15. She's coming off a loss. Not much thought process behind this fight. I think it just makes sense. Serve it up, get the fight done. And then 4, Jordan Santos. I'm surprised this guy didn't get a bonus. There was only, I think, 2 performance bonuses on the entire card. They didn't give one to Jordan Santos, which was weird because I think him and Danny Barlow had a fucking banger. He's obviously a fun fighter, Jordan Santos. I'd do Jordan Santos against somebody who fought on this card. I'd do Jordan Santos versus Azamat Bekaev. This might be random matchmaking, but I think this would be a really good fight because I think this would be an absolute banger of a fight. Obviously, Jordan Santos, he's a scrapper on the feet. He's defensively not the most sound, but he's always walking forward. I said this in the breakdown yesterday. He's like a zombie. No matter how much damage you give him, no matter how much you batter him in the first 2, he's always going to be walking forward. He's got a good 3-round pace. He comes to scrap every single time. He did it on the Contender Series. He did it in his debut. He's just done it against Danny Barlow. Really fun guy on the feet. And obviously, Azamat Bekaev, this kind of powerful, brawly style on the feet. Even in his fight that he just had with Yusri, yes, he was getting completely pieced up by Yusri, but he was still walking forward. He was still firing back. I think this is a complete banger of fight. It's a step up for Jordan Santos. The guy's just had Ozzy Diaz and Danny Barlow. Bekaev's definitely a step up. And for Azamat Bekaev, he's just fought this kickboxing legend in Yusri Belgarui. Him fighting Jordan Santos, who's 1-1 in the UFC, is a step down, but I think it'd be a banger. 2 guys with solid hands, 2 guys who like to throw down, 2 guys who haven't even had a single boring fight yet in the UFC. Step up for Jordan, step down for Bekaev. They fought on the same card as well. They took damage, so they're probably not going to be back until around, early 2026. So I'd get this fight done for next year. Jordan Santos versus Bekaev, probably in some sort of Apex. Not even in the Apex, because it's too good to be in the Apex. Santos, Bekaev, get it done. Should be a fun fight. I'd watch it, get the fight done. And then 4, Bruno Silva It's weird for Bruno Silva because the second he gets momentum, he'll take a couple of losses and then he'll get the momentum back. Very dangerous dude, he's Bruno Silva. I'd do him against Rafael Estevam. This might seem like it's not that big of a step up in competition because he's only, he just beat Hyung Sung Park by finish. He's already in the top 15, and I think this is only like one ranking slot above him. But I'd do him versus Rafael Estevam. I think this makes sense. He's just got out there and finished Hyung Sung Park. But to be fair to Bruno Silva, he was just coming off a 2-fight losing streak to the only 2 guys he's currently faced in the top 15. So I'd give him Rafael Estevam, who's on a winning streak right now. I think the winner of this fight gets a top 10 opponent, though. I think if Bruno Silva can go out there and beat Rafael Estevam, that's a solid win. I'd say it's more impressive than Hyung Sung Park, and I'd probably give Bruno Silva someone in the top 10. And for Estevam, he's undefeated. If he can beat Bruno Silva, again, give him someone in the top 10. Like I said, I don't want to rush Bruno Silva because he has just beat unranked Hyung Sung Park. And like I said, the 2 guys that he's actually fought in the top 15, he's been finished by. Estevam's got 3 wins in the UFC. He's in the top 15, but he hasn't really got an impressive win yet. So I'll put him in there with Bruno Silva. They're both fairly evenly matched as well. They've both got a dodgy gas tank. They're both pretty talented everywhere the fight goes. So Bruno Silva, Estevam, I'd put them against each other. Winner gets someone in their top 10. I think that makes sense. And then for Archie Lung, one of the few guys that got a performance, one of the only 2 guys that got a performance bonus on this card, knocks out Cody Gibson in, 20 seconds? That might be one of the quickest knockouts we've had of 2025. I'd honestly do him versus Cody Garbrandt. This might seem like weird matchmaking because, Cody Garbrandt's not really getting a big name, but I think stylistically, they're both at the point in their career where this fight makes sense. Archie Lung's obviously a bit of a win-loss fighter, just got an amazing knockout, though, against Cody Gibson. He's going to want a bit of a step up. Garbrandt's obviously on a 2-fight losing streak, just got beaten by Houndy Barcelos. He's more of a part-time fighter these days. So if Cody Garbrandt's going to fight, why not give him Archie Lung? You've got that perfect highlight reel. He just knocked out Cody Gibson in 20 seconds to sell the fight. Obviously, Cody Garbrandt himself, way past his prime. You can argue the chin's not there anymore, but he's still looking pretty quick these days in the bantamweight division. So I'd do him and Archie Lung. It's a step down for Cody Garbrandt. It's probably one of the easiest opponents, not easiest, that's the wrong way to put it, but one of the, I guess, lower level guys he's had to face in a while. He's not having to face Houndy Barcelos. He's not having to face fucking Davison Figueiredo. He's facing like a lower level guy in the bantamweight division, but I think stylistically, it's fun. You've got a quick striker in Cody Garbrandt. You've got a pretty evidently dangerous striker in Archie Lung as well. Putting them against each other, I think it'll be a pretty fun striking matchup. It's winnable for Cody Garbrandt. It's winnable for Archie Lung. I think it would be fun on the feet as well. It's not just a complete can for Cody Garbrandt, but it's not too big of a step up in competition. So I think this is a fair matchup. If Cody Garbrandt wants to continue fighting, he's at that stage in his career where if he's going to keep fighting, he's got to fight someone that makes sense. I think Archie Lung makes sense. Archie Lung, Cody Garbrandt, get the fight done. I think that makes sense. And then for Drew Dober, weird fight. Obviously got that massive groin shot against Kyle Prepolek and got the finish in the 3rd round. I do Drew Dober versus Esteban Ribovics. Now, do I think that Ribovics absolutely tears apart Drew Dober in this fight? Yes, but regardless, it would be a banger. Drew Dober, he's still one of the most entertaining guys in the lightweight division in the sense that, yes, he's got no chin, and yes, he takes a shit ton of damage, but he also fires it back. That's one thing you know about Drew Dober. It's either him or it's going to be you, and that is evident in all of his fights. And obviously, Esteban Ribovics, every single fight of his is a fight of the year contender. No matter who he's against, you put Esteban Ribovics in the octagon, he's going to make it a scrap. I mean, he had the best fight of 2024. He's already had a couple of fight of the year contenders this year as well. So I think you do Drew Dober versus Ribovics. This is a fucking banger. Now, I do think Ribovics would finish him quite early. I think Ribovics is at that stage of his career where he's just more dangerous than Drew Dober. He's better than Drew Dober. But at the same time, Ribovics gets hit a lot as well. You put him in there with Drew Dober, who offensively is pretty dangerous. I think regardless of what happens, it would be a banger as well. It makes sense as well for Drew Dober because he's back in the winning column. Ribovics coming off a win as well. Put them against each other. I think it'd be a banger of that. Knowing the UFC, they probably do this shit in the Apex, but, maybe for like some sort of fight night main card, Ribovics versus Drew Dober, stick it on the card somewhere. I think it'll be a banger. Dober, Ribovics, get the fight done. And then for the main card, Matt Frevola. Similar to what I just said about Drew Dober, he's one of those fighters where it's either going to be you or him. He's now taken his 3rd consecutive loss. I do Matt Frevola versus Yanal Ashmouz. It's got to be that stage in Matt Frevola's career where he needs a bit of a step down in competition. I mean, he's been knocked out, or not knocked out. Well, he should have been knocked out in his most recent fight if the referee would have stopped it correctly, but he's been, badly damaged in his last 3 fights. He's on a 3-fight losing streak. I'd put him in there with somebody like Yanal Ashmouz. Matt Frevola, dangerous guy, very, very chinny. I think that's the biggest problem with Frevola. He's got a really bad chin, but he's still powerful as fuck. And Yanal Ashmouz, even though he's not really been put able to put it together. Short, stocky guy, hits like a truck, got that brutal knockout over Sam Patterson a few years ago as well. Someone's getting knocked out. That's one thing you can guarantee about this fight. It's still a step down in competition for Matt Frevola. You know, we're not giving him somebody borderline top 15. We're not really giving him anybody high level in the lightweight division, but it's still a tough matchup. Ashmoose can crack. He's still a dangerous dude. He still made it competitive in all of his losses as well, so. And I don't think it goes the distance. They're both powerful guys. You know, they both take a lot of damage. Ashmoose, Frevola. It's a step down for Frevola. If Frevola gets chinned again, it's going to get to the point where, unfortunately, we start talking about him getting cut from the UFC. This is like one of the lower level guys that Frevola's had to face, but it's still a banger. So, Frevola, Ashmoose, I get it done. And then for Kyle Nelson, good start to 155. Unfortunately, he couldn't get a finish as well because he should have got the finish in the first round if the referee would have, you know, stopped the fight correctly. But I do Kyle Nelson versus Ignacio Bahamondes. There's so many fun guys unranked at 155. I feel like these guys have a pretty similar style. Both kind of tall, rangy for the division. Both have really good kicks. So I do Nelson versus Bahamondes. It makes sense if you look at their career. Nelson, he got finished by Steve Garcia, just moved up, got a good win over Frevola. Bahamondes is coming off a loss to Fiziev, so he's going to want a bit of a step down in competition. I think it'd be a fun fight. Fun kickboxing matchup. Nelson, Bahamondes, step up for Nelson, step down for Bahamondes. Makes all the sense in the world. And then for Davy Grant, I kind of feel for David Grant. He's just a nice guy. Fun. Every single one of his fights are fun. One of the best veterans in the UFC as well. He's 4 years of age at bantamweight, and he's still making it competitive with these guys, but he did just get brutalized. I do David Grant versus Sergey Sidey. I think Sergey Sidey versus David Grant would be a fair matchup, and again, for the same reason about the other fights, this would be a banger of fight. Sergey Sidey gets caught a lot, fires back a lot. He's not really had too many fights in the UFC, but he's had a lot of fun fights in the short amount of fights that he's had, and obviously David Grant, even though he's, you know, he's a bit inactive, he's up there in age, the guy comes to scrap every single time. It's either you or him. He's putting on a fight of the night every time, or at least he's trying to. So I do David Grant versus Sergey Sidey. I think it'd be a fun fight. David Grant's just been brutally finished by Charles Jourdain. He's 40 years of age. If he wants to fight, he's going to need somebody a bit lower level. Sergey Sidey's coming off a win over Cameron Smotherman. He's going to want a bit of a step up. They're both fairly evenly matched as well. I think it would be a really fun fight. I think it'd be an evenly matched fight. So, David Grant, Sergey Sidey, just a fun scrap that you can put between the two of them. I think that makes sense as well. We're not giving David Grant any killers as well. We're not just feeding him to some upcoming killer prospect. And it's a fair step up for Sergey Sidey too. So I get that done. And then for Charles Jourdain, moved down to the bantamweight division, might be the best career move. 2 first-round finishes in a row. I do Charles Jourdain versus Rob Font. I think this is a fair step up for Charles Jourdain. He's at that stage in his career where he deserves someone in the top 15. Like I said, he's moved down to bantamweight, 2 finishes in a row. Finish Charles Jourdain, finish Victor Henry as well. So I'd give him someone in the top 15. I think Rob Font makes sense. Rob Font's just coming off that loss to David Martinez, who's unranked. He's lost 2 of his last 5 fights as well. I think he's going to have to fight outside the rankings, and Charles Jourdain's a perfect guy. Promotable, fun style. And I think this would be a banger of fight as well, because Charles Jourdain, one thing you can't say about him is he's never in a scrap. The guy's always in a scrap. He's got that crafty kickboxing style, always making it a fun fight. And obviously, Rob Font, solid boxer too, always in scraps too. So Charles Jourdain, Rob Font, fun fight. Step down for Rob Font, step up for Jourdain. Big opportunity for Jourdain as well, because if you can beat Rob Font, you've got a new guy coming up in the bantamweight division. So Jourdain, fun fight. I'd get that done. And then for Marlon Vera, it's a shame for Marlon Vera. Now on a 3-fight losing streak. Can't believe this guy fought for a belt last year, but he's on a 3-fight losing streak. Some would argue he beat Ayman Zahabi. I do Marlon Vera versus David Martinez. I booked David Martinez against Corey Sandhagen a few weeks back. I think, you know, looking back on it, this probably makes more sense. Yeah, I do David Martinez versus Marlon Vera, and I think it'd be a firefight as well. Obviously, Marlon Vera, he's in a bit of a bad career spot. He's lost 4 of his last 5 fights, 3-fight losing streak, took another loss in a row. He's going to need a bit of a step down in competition. Not necessarily someone outside the top 15, because he has just been facing, you know, top caliber guys. But he's going to need a bit of a step down. David Martinez, and he's just lost to Ayman Zahabi. David Martinez, he's on a 2-fight winning streak, just beat Rob Font in his 2nd fight in the UFC. So he's going to definitely deserve someone in the top 15. So I think this is fair. We're not rushing David Martinez. He has just beat Rob Font, who's in the top 15. So we're not rushing him, but we're definitely giving him a bit of a step up in competition. For your 3rd fight in the UFC to be Marlon Vera, it's a big step up, but he's deserved it as well as David Martinez. And obviously Marlon Vera, he's going to need a step down. He's on a 3-fight losing streak, and I think the fight itself would be fun. Marlon Vera, He's never in a boring fight. He's always walking forward. He wears damage. He's got one of the best chins in the UFC. And then he'll fire back and he progressively does better as the fight goes on. David Martinez, short, powerful boxer, great low kicks. I think this would be an absolute clinic on the feet. And I honestly don't know who to pick at this stage. I could see David Martinez winning because of the way that he beat Rob Font. I could see Vera being too much for David Martinez as well in the later rounds because we did start to see David Martinez kind of gas out. But regardless, I think it'd be a banger. It makes sense in their careers. Vera versus David Martinez of some sort of like fight night co-main event. I think, or even like a fight night main event as well if you're going to try push David Martinez in like the apex. Vera versus Martinez makes sense. So Martinez, Vera, I think that makes sense. Get it done. And then for Ayman Zahabi, he's on a big winning streak. He hasn't really got too much hype because the last 2 wins he's had have both been very, very close decisions and arguably robberies as well. I do Zahabi versus Corey Sandhagen though. Sandhagen's obviously just lost to Merab. I think this makes sense because Zahabi is on a big winning streak. He has got 2 wins in the top 15. Just beat Marlon Vera, who I think was number 7 ranked as well. So if you're on a big winning streak and you're number 7 in the division, you're going to want someone in the top 5. And I don't think there's any better guy right now than Corey Sandhagen. You know, we just beat Marlon Vera. Ayman Zahabi going to want a top 5 guy. Sandhagen just lost to Merab. He's going to need a bit of a step down in competition. So I do this fight, and I think it'll be a fun fight as well because Zahabi's got that kind of fun technical striking style. You can argue about the robberies, but his last 2 fights against Aldo and Vera, talk about the decision all you want. They were fun fights, and obviously Corey Sandhagen, one of the most technically sound strikers in this division. So I do the fight. Sandhagen versus Zahabi. Step down for Sandhagen, step up for Zahabi. Big opportunity for Zahabi as well. I mean, if he beats Sandhagen, he's probably going to be fighting for a belt in his next fight. Also a big opportunity for Sandhagen. You know, it's a step down in competition from the title area. If he beats Zahabi, which I think he would do comfortably, he's back in the winning column. Then you can start booking him against the likes of O'Malley and maybe a rematch with Petiana, whoever else is left. So I do Zahabi versus Sandhagen. I think this is like the perfect fight night main event. Perfect fight night main event in a crowded arena. Sandhagen versus Zahabi. This new guy on the... Well, no, I don't want to say new guy because he's, 37 years old. But this guy who's on a big winning streak in Zahabi, new in the top 15. Corey Sandhagen, who just fought for the belt. Put them against each other. I think it makes a lot of sense. And then 4, Jasmine Judavicius got knocked out in, what was it? I think it was like a minute, just over a minute. She got knocked out by Manon Fiorot. I do Jasmine versus Karine Silva. I mean, I'm booking this fight because it makes sense. They're both in the top 10. Jasmine's coming off a bad loss to Manon Fiorot. Karine Silva's coming off a win over Dion Barbosa. It makes sense career-wise. There's not too much logic going into this fight. I think it'd be fun as far as grappling goes. Karine Silva's a bit of a grappling prospect. Jasmine Judavicius is still one of the best grapplers in this division, so stylistically it's quite fun. It makes sense when you look at the rankings. Jasmine, Karine, I'd get that done. Then for Manon Fiorot, obviously lost to Shevchenko earlier on this year, and she's now just casually gone and got the best career highlight. Just shut down Jasmine, who was on a 6-fight winning streak, knocked her out in, what was it? Like I said, was it like a minute or however long it was? Massive win for Fiorot. I'd probably do her versus Natalia Silva for a title eliminator. The winner of this fight fights for a belt. Even though Fiorot's just fought for a belt, I think if she can beat Natalia Silva, put her back in a title fight. Obviously, we've got Shevchenko versus Zhang Weili at UFC 322, which is a bit of a super fight in women MMA in the flyweight division. I think in the meantime, you book them against each other. It makes sense. Manon Fiorot obviously fought Shevchenko, lost that fight, and she's just got her the best career highlight. She's straight back in the title contention. Just knocking out Jasmine in a minute. And obviously, Natalia Silva, some would argue she already deserves a title shot, but she's also on a big winning streak. Couple of wins in this division too, so I'd get the fight done. Fiorot versus Natalia Silva, book them against each other. They're both in, the best career spot. 2 on the feet as well. I think it's one of the best striking matchups you can make in women MMA. Natalia Silva is one of the funnest strikers in women MMA. Great taekwondo style, really fun to watch on the feet. And obviously Fiorot, I mean, we've just seen the highlight reel she did against Jasmine. Dangerous striker too. So Fiorot versus Silva, fun ass fight. Makes sense as a point of rankings. Title eliminator as well, where the winner faces the winner of Shevchenko and Weili. I'd get that fight done. Title eliminator in the flyweight division. And then 4, Kevin Holland. The second this guy gains momentum, he chucks out the window again. He's just lost to Mike Mallet. Obviously, the groin shot was a bit controversial, but even before the groin shot, he was getting dominated. There wasn't really an ounce in this fight where Kevin Holland was doing well. I'd probably do Kevin Holland versus Sam Patterson. I think it's time to give Sam Patterson a big name. He deserves a big name, and I think Kevin Holland's that guy that he deserves. Sam Patterson's now on a 4-fight winning streak, all of them being in the first round, all of them being finishers, 2 submissions, 2 knockouts. I think Sam Patterson deserves a big name. He's got really good boxing. Well, not really good boxing, but he's obviously got heavy hands, even though his boxing and his stand-up is a bit, not controversial, but a bit, iffy. He's got really good grappling as well. He deserves a bit of a step up. Kevin Holland coming off a 2-fight losing streak, had that dogfight with D-Rod, which he nearly got finished in, and just got dominated by Mark Mallet. He's going to need a bit of a step down, so I think this is the fight to push Sam Patterson. Maybe even do it on like a pay-per-view main card opener. If Sam Patterson can beat Kevin Holland, and even if he can do it by finish, he's continuing the winning streak. He's one of the better prospects we've got in the welterweight division, one of the better guys we've got coming out of the UK, and it's someone in the top 15 after that for Patterson. And obviously, if Kevin Holland can win, he's back in the winning column. He's shut down one of welterweight's best prospects, so I don't think there's any bad things about this fight. Holland, Patterson, get the fight done. Probably doesn't go the distance as well because of how dangerous they both are, so I'd get this fight done. Get it on some sort of pay-per-view main card to push Patterson, get that done. And then 4, Mike Mallet, probably one of Canada's best prospects right now. I think he is probably Canada's best prospects. Obviously, he's only lost in the UFC. He's been to Neil Magny in a fight that he was dominating for pretty much every minute of that fight apart from the last. I do Mike Mallet versus Colby Covington. Colby's got to fight eventually. He has to fight. And I think now's the time we give Colby Covington an opponent. It makes sense. Canada versus USA. Mallet versus Colby Covington. I'd get the fight done. Mallet, like I said, he's 6-1 in the UFC. He's on a 3-fight winning streak. Just beat Kevin Holland, who's in the top 15. He's only losses to Magny in a fight that he was dominated. And obviously, yeah, like I said, he's going to be in the top 15. He deserves somebody in the top 15. Covington's number 10. He's been losing it. Well, he's on a 2-fight losing streak. Hasn't fought since December of last year. He got finished by Buckley. Now's the chance. If Colby's not going to fight, I don't see why he's still ranked. This is the fight that makes sense. We're giving Mike Mallet a big name. We're pushing him. Like I said, he's one of the only hopes of a Canadian top contender. So let's give him Colby Covington. I think Mallet would win this fight as well. I think he dominates Colby Covington. You could even do it as like a fight night main event as well. I think he dominates Covington. And after that, he'd get in the top 10. He's just beating a big name. He'd have a bit of hype to his name. You pay Covington and quite a big paycheck as well for this fight, just to make him fight and, let him build Mike Mallet. So Mallet, Covington, get it done. Makes sense. I want to stay there evenly matched, even though I think Mallet dominates this fight. He deserves someone in the top 10. Colby's coming off a couple of losses. If he's going to fight eventually, he has to fight now. And let's give him Mike Mallet, so I'll get that fight done. And then for Reiner De Ridder in the main event, I don't know what the fuck that was. I know obviously he's fought 5 times in the last 365 days, so there is a bit of, you can argue that the weight cut, having another weight cut, was probably taking a toll on him, but that was probably his worst, or one of his worst performances in the UFC. Got dominated by Allen after the first round, completely gassed out, which is not what you want to see when you're preparing for Fluffy Hernandez. I do De Ridder versus Costa. I think I'd probably book this fight next. I think it makes sense. Obviously, Costa's coming off that really good win over Roman Kopylov. He's got a bit of hype again. He's going to want someone in the top 10. And obviously, Reiner De Ridder has just been smothered and dominated by Brendan Allen and completely gassed out in a horrible performance. So I do this fight. Costa's been calling for a top opponent. If we're going to give Costa a top opponent, I think Reiner De Ridder is probably going to be outside of the top 5 after last night. So it makes sense. Costa's coming off a good win. De Ridder's coming off a bad loss. Everyone wants to see Costa get the rise. I think it's winnable for Costa as well, because if Reiner looks anything like he did last night, and if Costa looks anything like he did when he fought Kopylov, I can see Costa winning that fight and getting back into contention. So Reiner De Ridder, Roman Kopylov, get it on some sort of pay-per-view main card. I think it makes sense from a perspective of rankings. And then for Brendan Allen, I think there's one fight that makes complete sense. I said it in the breakdown yesterday, and it is Dricus du Plessis. DDP versus Brendan Allen should be the fight to make next in the middleweight division. I think you do Chimaev versus Imavov for the belt, Fluffy Hernandez versus Sean Strickland, and then Brendan Allen versus Dricus du Plessis. If we're going to give Brendan a title shot, he's going to get a top win, and I think Dricus is that guy. It makes sense for me. He's just beat Reiner De Ridder. He's beat a top contender. He's now going to be in the top 4 of the middleweight division, and the only guy above him that's coming off a loss apart from Strickland. He's going to be Dricus du Plessis, and he's already fought Strickland anyway. So yeah, Dricus is coming off a loss to Chimaev. He's going to have to fight down. He's obviously not going to get an immediate rematch. Allen's coming off a win. It makes sense. Allen versus Dricus. And you know what? I can see Allen winning this fight, even though I would still favour Dricus, and I don't want to cut him out because he lost to Chimaev. Allen is one of those weird fighters where he can look awful against like a lower level guy, and then you give him a step up in competition, and then he looks good, and that was evident last night. So I think this is definitely winnable for Allen, and if he does beat Dricus du Plessis, I mean, even though I still think he gets destroyed by Chimaev, it's a new style for Chimaev, it's a grappler, and I think this would be a very competitive fight, and it makes sense because Allen's now on a 2-fight winning streak, just beat De Ridder. So I do this fight night main event, Dricus du Plessis versus Brendan Allen. Get that fight done. If Brendan wins, he gets a title shot. Obviously, I don't think he should be the priority title shot. I think Imavov should be next. And if Fluffy Hernandez can beat Strickland, I think he should be next as well. But he's definitely got a case to make. And if Dricus can beat Allen, then he's got another win. I'd say Dricus is only like one more win after beating Allen away from a title fight. So, Allen, Dricus, fight night main event, get them against each other. I think it makes. But those are the fights I make off the UFC Vancouver. Let me know your thoughts on these fights. If you agree, disagree, if you change anything around, let me know your thoughts. Thank you for watching.